On this edition of ITG, we dive into the history of West Virginia football against ranked teams. The wins, the losses, the quarterbacks, and of course the coaches. Some of these numbers might just surprise you. Stick around and find out on this episode of In the Gun.
Single.
Let's go.
You are now watching Believe.
Mountaineer Nation.
You are In the Gun.
Because once you enter this family, there's no getting out.
Welcome to it, folks. I'm Jed Drenning, flying solo for this one, and you are In the Gun. Let's go ahead and get started. At the conclusion of the 1935 college football regular season, in an age before polls as we know them today existed, Associated Press editor Alan Gould declared a three-way tie for national champion. Gould crowned Minnesota, a team which had gone 8-0 for the second straight year, Southern Methodist, 12-0, but would go on to lose the Rose Bowl to Stanford, and 9-0 Princeton. But this ruffled some feathers. The controversy created by three teams sharing the title prompted many of Gould's colleagues to suggest a poll of multiple sports editors instead of merely Gould anointing a champion, or in this case, champions, himself. The following year, in 1936, the Associated Press poll was born, ranking the 20 best teams in the land and ushering in the AP era of college football. Here are a few quick facts about the Associated Press poll. When the AP poll started in 1936, it listed the top 20 teams in the country and did so all the way through 1988. Except for this period from 1961 to 1967, in which the AP only recognized 10 teams. So in other words, you didn't know who number 11 was in the country during that 6-year stretch. For whatever reason, they only listed the top 10 in the nation. In 1950, the Associated Press added its first preseason poll. And then in 1968, the practice of releasing the poll after the bowl games instead of before they were played became permanent. That had always been the case up to that point in 1968. The bowl games weren't counted for the final poll. Until that point in 1968, this had only been done one time following the 1965 slate of bowls, but that became permanent in 1968. And then in 1989, the Associated Press expanded its poll from the top 20 teams in the country to the top 25, and that's, of course, where it remains today. West Virginia, meanwhile, made its debut in the AP poll in 1953. All time, the Mountaineers have appeared in the poll 306 times. 251 of WVU's 306 appearances in the AP poll, 82%, have taken place since Don Nehlen was hired at West Virginia in 1980. That includes 142 appearances since 2002. This is all despite not being ranked since 2018. WVU has appeared in the AP Top 10 a total of 88 times, most recently, Week 12 of 2018. 6 different coaches have led West Virginia into AP Top 10 appearances. That includes once by Bobby Bowden in 1975, 3 times by Bill Stewart, Dana Holgerson 11 times, Pappy Lewis 13 times, Don Nehlen 27 times, and Rich Rodriguez tops the list. His teams appeared in the Associated Press Top 10 at West Virginia 33 times. Before we dive deeper today, let's give a quick thank you to our friends at Toothman Ford in Grafton. A big shout out to JR and all the fine folks at Team Toothman. Remember, now more than ever, to support the dealer that supports the Mountaineers. We all know that cars cost less in Grafton. And while you're at it, be sure to visit toothmanford.com and get pre-qualified. It only takes a handful of seconds. Go ahead and log on. Check it out at toothmanford.com. Since the AP era began in 1936, West Virginia has had 14 head football coaches. Now, one of those coaches, Rat Rogers, who worked his second stint at the helm of the WVU football program from 1943 to 1945, did not face a team ranked in the Associated Press poll. Another of those 14 coaches, Chad Scott, worked just one game, the Scooters Coffee Frisco Bowl against Memphis in relief of Neil Brown in December, and never had the interim tag removed from his title. That leaves us with the 12 full-time West Virginia head coaches we'll be looking at who have faced teams ranked in the AP poll. But before we pop the hood to investigate the numbers these head coaches have posted against the best teams they faced, those ranked in the AP poll, I thought an interesting exercise to start things off with might be to take a glance at the other end of the spectrum. So let's begin by shining a light on the success these coaches have had in harvesting some of the lower hanging fruit on the tree, the unranked teams they faced. Why unranked teams, you're probably asking? Well, because while it's true that good coaches pull their share of upsets against the heavy hitters, it's equally true that effective coaches also tend to the thankless business of beating most of the opponents they're expected to beat. And that's one of the most underrated achievements in football. It wasn't an accident that Nick Saban's Alabama teams won 97% of their games against unranked competition. That's consistency. Show me a coach whose team wins at an overwhelming rate as a favorite, and I'll show you a coach who fully appreciates the art of consistency. So, let's take a look. Counting down West Virginia coaches against teams not ranked in the Associated Press poll. We'll be counting them down based on their winning percentage against unranked teams, starting with number 12, Frank Cignetti. At West Virginia, Cignetti won just 47.1% of his games against unranked teams. Moving on to number 11, Gene Corum. Gene Corum won 52.7% of his games against unranked teams. Number 10, Bill Kern. Bill Kern at WVU won 55.7% of his games against unranked teams. Number 9, Art Pappy Lewis won 63.9% of his games back in the 50s versus unranked teams. Number 8, Neil Brown against unranked teams won 65.4% of those games. And number 7, Bobby Bowden. Bowden at West Virginia won 66.1% of his games against teams not ranked. Number 6, Dudley DeGroot won 67.5% of his games against teams not ranked in the AP poll. Number 5, Jim Carlin. Jim Carlin won 67.9% of his games against unranked competition. Into the top 4, Don Nealon at number 4. Against unranked competition at WVU, Coach Nealon won 71.5% of his games. At number 3, Dana Holgerson won 71.8% of his games against unranked competition at West Virginia. At number 2, Bill Stewart won 72.2% of his games against unranked teams. And topping the list by a considerable margin at that, number 1, Rich Rodriguez. His first run at West Virginia won 77.8% of his games against unranked competition. Another note to add, not only did Coach Rod win nearly 78% of his games versus unranked teams to top that list, but in his final 3 years at WVU, when he really had things humming, he won 93% of those games with a record of 27-2 versus unranked competition during that stretch. NFL Hall of Fame coach Bud Grant once said, "A good football coach needs a patient wife, a loyal dog, and a great quarterback, but not necessarily in that order. It's no secret that behind every great coach are great players, particularly difference makers behind center." From Ford Childress and John Talley to Dutch Hoffman and Carmen Pomponio, a long list of quarterbacks have run point for the Mountaineers through the years. But that list shrinks considerably when you count only the QBs who have led West Virginia to victory over a ranked opponent. And it contracts even more when listing only those quarterbacks with multiple wins over ranked teams. All told, only 14 signal callers in WVU history have led the Mountaineers to 2 or more wins over ranked teams in the Associated Press poll. That list includes 6 quarterbacks with a pair of ranked wins. Both of Major's wins over ranked teams came during that magical 88 season. Clint Trickett with a couple ranked wins, including that shocker in the Bumblebee uniforms as a 19-point underdog at home in 2013 against Oklahoma State. Chad Johnston, Dan Kendra, Mark Bulger, all with a couple ranked wins. Kevin White, of course, Justice White, the definition of a giant slayer. Not only did he snap Penn State's winning streak over West Virginia, but he stunned Doug Flutie and the number 4 ranked Boston College Eagles, moving up to the quarterbacks with 3 ranked wins. Jarrett Dagey, my guy Jarrett, I should have offered a golden fiddle and 5 Yan Dogs to anybody who guessed Dagey authored more ranked wins than Mage. His finest work? Brocktober surprise versus ranked Iowa State in 2021. Kelchner with 3 ranked wins. Will Greer with 4 ranked wins. None bigger than that unforgettable day in Austin. Geno Smith, the Raiders' new savior. He had me with that 70 spot in the Orange Bowl over a ranked Clemson team. Meanwhile, Freddie Wyant with 4 wins over ranked teams. What can you say about a guy with a career record as a starter of 30-4 that includes 3 wins over Penn State and 2 wins over ranked Pitt teams? Jeff Hostetler, Haas with 4 ranked wins. Most impressively, 3 of his 4 came on the road, including that program-defining win in Norman, Oklahoma in 1982. Into the top 2, a 2-way tie atop this list at that. Hashtag respect2. Rasheed Marshall with 5 ranked wins in his career at West Virginia that included 2 wins over ranked Pitt teams, 2 wins over ranked Virginia Tech teams, and he also ripped free the Maryland Terps' death grip on West Virginia with a walk-off overtime TD strike. And of course, Chief right there at the top as well with 5 ranked wins. Pat White with 5 wins over ranked teams, including 2 wins over teams ranked in the top 10. But we have some controversy here as the reason Pat White has 5 ranked wins instead of 6. These wins in this category are only credited to starting quarterbacks. The 2005 come-from-behind win over Louisville saw Pat White not start but come off the bench to help the Mountaineers pull that epic comeback win, leaving Pat in a 2-way tie in first place with Rasheed, 5 ranked wins each. Scheduling for success in college football is kind of an art form. Of course, it involves strategy, but it also involves some luck. A schedule populated only with lightweights might prevent you from building the kind of battle-tested team that can punch above its weight. On the flip side, if your schedule is packed with too many Goliaths, the week-to-week grind for a non-blue blood program might prove overwhelming, especially if you draw the short straw and face your best opponents in succession without any layups in between. Consider the 3 times in a season that West Virginia has faced 4 ranked opponents in a row: 2015, 1992, and back in 1959. 1959, by the way, was also the only time in history that WVU faced 3 straight top 10 teams. Overall, in those 12 games played in those 3 seasons, 3 groups of 4, in other words, the Mountaineers came out on top just once in 12 tries against those teams, losing by an average of 17 points in those matchups. So, in 2015, one of the seasons on that list, West Virginia faced 4 straight ranked teams and were outscored by an average of 2-1 in those 4 losses. The following year, in 2016, the Mountaineers faced just 1 ranked opponent all year and won 10 games. How a schedule falls obviously matters. To date, the most ranked teams WVU has ever faced in a season was 6 in 2017. The last time West Virginia didn't face a single ranked team all year was 2008, marking the first time that had happened since 1970. Now, so far in this episode, we've looked at coaches' winning percentages versus unranked teams, and in a bit, we're going to see how each coach has done against AP ranked teams and even against top 10 teams. But first, let's take a peek at which WVU head coaches have faced the biggest chunk of ranked teams since the Associated Press poll debuted in 1936. Counting down the percentage of games coached versus teams ranked in the Associated Press poll. Starting the countdown at number 12, Jim Carlin. Carlin coached 41 games at West Virginia, but only 2 of those were against ranked teams. That's 4.9%, lowest on the list. Number 11, Bill Kern. 4 of his 48 games coached were against ranked teams. That's 8.3%. Number 10, Bobby Bowden. While at West Virginia, Bobby Bowden coached 68 games, 6 of which were against ranked teams, 8.8% against ranked teams. Gene Corum at number 9, 9.8% of Corum's games, 6 of 61 games coached. Number 8, Bill Stewart. Stu coached 4 games, that's it, against ranked teams. 3 of those were against top 10 teams, but 4 games in 40 makes 10%. Number 7, Dudley DeGroot. 3 of his 23 games at West Virginia were against ranked teams. That's 13%. Number 6, Pappy Lewis. 14.3% of his games were against ranked teams. Number 5, Frank Signetti. 22.7% of Signetti's games were against ranked competition. Number 4, Don Nealon. Coach Nealon faced 57 ranked teams in his 246 games at West Virginia. That's 23.2%. Number 3, Rich Rodriguez. While at West Virginia, 86 games, 23 against ranked teams. That's 26.7%. Number 2, Neil Brown, who coached 72 games at West Virginia, 20 of them against ranked teams. That's 27.8%. And number 1, Dana Holgerson. 31 of the 102 games Holgerson coached at West Virginia were against ranked teams. That's 30.4%. A few more interesting numbers here. Since joining the Big 12 back in 2012, 34% of the opponents WVU has faced in league play have been ranked. Some might be surprised to hear that's just a tick higher than the 32% of ranked teams WVU faced against conference opponents during its 2 decades in the Big East from 1991 to 2011. Looking at the raw numbers, West Virginia has now played 117 Big 12 games. That's exactly the same number they played during their time in the Big East. In the Big 12, 40 of those 117 have been against ranked teams, while in the Big East, 38 of the 117 were. Probably a little closer than some might have thought. Let's give a quick shout out and thank you to Fortis and our buddy Rick Lewis. Fortis is currently improving performance and increasing ROI for customers at more than 4,800 locations. For roof performance and financial certainty guaranteed, be sure you are visiting fortis.us.com. All right, we're going to take a quick break, but be sure to stick around because when we come back, the entree of today's show will be served as we take a close look at each West Virginia head coach's track record against ranked teams and even against top 10 teams. That is what's waiting for you on the other side of this break. You are in the gun.
Nobody supports the blue and gold Mountaineers like Toothman Ford. With over 20 NIL deals and counting, Toothman Ford continues to rally behind our student athletes. And it's time we rally and support the dealer that supports the Mountaineers. Not only does Toothman Ford offer the best prices in the state on pre-owned, their never over MSRP campaign on new Fords guaranteed to save you thousands. Drive with pride all season long, knowing you're supporting the dealer that fuels our Mountaineers. Toothman Ford, where cars cost less, in Grafton and at toothmanford.com.
For nearly 20 years, Fortis has been the nation's leader in providing guaranteed roof performance programs for commercial buildings. Fortis offers roof performance solutions that feature extensive initial and ongoing reconditioning for commercial buildings as an alternative to traditional replacement with long-term performance guarantees that are backed by global leader Lloyd's of London. Fortis offers a comprehensive range of roof performance management programs that provide financial security, extend the life of our customers' roofs, and make a significant impact on ROI. Fortis is currently improving performance and increasing ROI for customers at more than 4,800 locations, with more than 140 million square feet protected, including many Fortune 500 companies that have turned to Fortis to save money, gain financial certainty, and extend the life of their existing roofs. Fortis has helped customers save more than $520 million in capital roof replacement costs for an average ROI of over 250%. To learn more, visit fortis.us.com. Fortis, roof performance and financial certainty guaranteed.
ITG will be right back.
It was a great job. We won because we hung. Every guy was in that game every single minute. Remember Thursday night we talked about injuries? Tell me what Larry Holly and Rich Rodriguez, tell me what they did. Tell me what Todd Fisher. Amen. It doesn't matter who plays.
You are in the gun.
There are better-known tractors in the world than Coyote. Ones with bigger names, longer histories, more popular hats, cute toy lines. But there's not a single tractor ever been built that's better equipped to do the dirty work. So we'll just focus on what really matters. Coyote, we dig dirt.
Now at Johnston Equipment, get 0% financing or a free loader with low-rate financing on select Coyote models in stock. Visit us on Route 33 between Weston and Buchanan.
ITG Pop Quiz. Question: has the West Virginia football team ever climbed to number 1 nationally in a major poll? Yes, but it wasn't the Associated Press poll. On Monday, November 26, 2007, 10-1 West Virginia landed at number 1 in the USA Today Coaches poll following a 66-21 demolition of a ranked Yukon Huskies team in Morgantown. It was a perch, however, that lasted just a handful of days until... Don't say it. Anyway, for those wondering how high West Virginia has climbed in the Associated Press poll, the answer is number 3. And the Mountaineers have done so 7 times across 3 seasons, probably the 3 seasons that you would guess: 1988, 1993, and 2007. Welcome back. In October of 1941, when Americans weren't huddled around the radio for FDR's fireside chats, they were probably lining up at the box office to see Bogart's new flick, The Maltese Falcon. War was escalating in Europe, but back here on the home front, Bill Kern's West Virginia Mountaineers, on the heels of a shutout win over West Virginia Wesleyan, were heading to the Polo Grounds of New York to take on the Fordham Rams. With a punishing ground game paced by fullback Jim Blumenstock, the Rams would ultimately go on to beat Missouri in the Sugar Bowl that season. But on that October 18th of 1941 in Upper Manhattan, Fordham was serving as West Virginia's portal. No, not that portal. Into a new age of college football, the AP era. Positioned at number 4 in the country, the Rams would be the first team the Mountaineer football program ever faced that was ranked in the Associated Press poll. With 103 yards, Blumenstock ran wild for Fordham that Saturday afternoon, and WVU lost. In fact, the Mountaineers would go on to lose their first 9 games against ranked teams before finally claiming their first AP-listed hide with a 16-0 shutout win over 18th ranked Pitt in 1952. That shutout of the Panthers was West Virginia's first victory over an AP-ranked team on a list that now includes 50 wins. And over the long arc of time, things have gradually, sluggishly, slowly tilted the Mountaineers' way a bit more in these games. From the start of the AP poll up through 1979, West Virginia's success rate against ranked competition was an unimpressive 18%. With the hiring of Don Nealon in 1980, WVU football turned over a new leaf, and since then, the Mountaineers' winning percentage against these teams has increased to 31%. Modest still, but better. All time, that leaves West Virginia with an overall winning percentage against ranked AP teams at 27.6%. Frame that in your mind as a reasonable number to beat as you watch and hear these coaches' rankings unfold. Counting down WVU coaches versus top 25, ranked by their winning percentage against ranked teams at West Virginia, starting with a 3-way tie at number 10. Jim Carlin, Dudley DeGroot, and Bill Kern were all winless, 0.0% winning percentage versus ranked teams. At number 9, Frank Signetti, 1 win and 10 tries against ranked competition at WVU for a 10% success rate. At number 8, Neil Brown won 15% of his games against ranked competition with a record of 3-17. Number 7, Gene Corum and Bobby Bowden tied, both with a 1-5 record, winning percentage versus ranked 16.7%. Number 5, Don Nealon, 15-40-2, with a winning percentage versus top 25 teams of 28.1%. Number 4, Dana Holgerson was 10-21 versus ranked teams at West Virginia for a winning percentage of 32.3%. Number 3, Pappy Lewis was 6-12 back in the 50s at West Virginia with a winning percentage against ranked teams 33.3%. Number 2, Coach Rod was 11-12, winning 47.8% of his games versus top 25 teams. And topping the list, Bill Stewart made the most of his opportunities, 2-2 against ranked teams at West Virginia for a winning percentage of 50%. How about that? Stu faced just 4 ranked teams in his 40 games as head coach here, but pulled off 2 incredibly memorable moments with, of course, the Fiesta Bowl upset of Oklahoma and the win in the 2009 brawl over number 8 ranked Pitt with the Bittencourt walk-off field goal. But heck, even Stu's 2 losses to ranked teams were close ones. West Virginia's 20-14 loss in 2010 down in Baton Rouge to number 15 LSU was a 1-possession game for the balance the entire fourth quarter. And the Mountaineers' tightly contested 24-21 loss to number 5 Cincinnati in 2009 at Nippert that Friday night in November. Remember the Isaiah Peed fumble, non-fumble controversy on a touchdown run that tied the game up? I really need to learn to let go of things. Anyway, while I shake that off, let's give a final thank you to our friends at Johnston Equipment on Route 33 between Weston and Buchanan. Check out Tim Johnston and his crew online at JohnstonEQ.com and click on that View Equipment button to explore their extensive inventory. You'll be glad you did. Visit Johnston Equipment just 4 miles east off exit 99 of I-79 toward Buchanan. And down the stretch we come to hold up to the light and scrutinize from every angle the results of West Virginia head football coaches against teams not just ranked, but ranked in the top 10. These are the matchups against the best of the best, the creme de la creme. The Mountaineers have faced 78 such teams in school history, but have prevailed in those games just 10 times. For most programs, wins over AP top 10 teams are like spotting Bigfoot in the saddle of a unicorn. And WVU's no different. All time, the Mountaineers have managed to win just 13.5% of their games against Associated Press top 10 competition. Consider as you take in the following countdown, that's the bar, 13.5%, that these Mountaineer coaches have historically tried to improve upon. Counting down West Virginia coaches versus teams ranked in the Associated Press top 10. 6 coaches tied with a winless record against top 10 competition, including DeGroot, Carlin, Bowden, Signetti, Kern, and Neil Brown, all with a 0.0 win percentage against top 10 teams. Moving on to number 6, Dana Holgerson posted a record of 1-11 against top 10 teams for a winning percentage of 8.3%. Pappy Lewis at number 5 was 1-8 for an 11.1% rate against top 10 teams. Number 4, Don Nealon with a 3-20-1 record, won 14.6% of his games against top 10 competition. Number 3 is Gene Corum with a 16.7% rate against top 10 teams. He faced 6 ranked teams, all 6 of them were in the top 10. Rich Rodriguez at number 2 was 2-5 against top 10 competition. 28.6% he won against those teams. And topping the list, Bill Stewart. Stu was 2-1 against top 10 teams. He only faced 4 ranked teams. 3 of them were in the top 10. He won 66.7% of those games. A quick point of interest. We covered on that countdown the 2 wins Coach Rodriguez had at West Virginia against top 10 competition. It's probably worth noting that he actually has a total of 7 wins over top 10 teams in his head coaching career overall. When he was at Michigan, the Wolverines had 1 top 10 victory And at Arizona, the Wildcats knocked off a top 10 USC team, a top 10 Utah team, and 2 Oregon squads that were actually ranked in the top 5 in the AP poll. That included a big Thursday night win for the Wildcats on the road at Alton Stadium in Eugene against the number 2 ranked Ducks in 2014. The same season, Coach Rod was named Pac-12 Coach of the Year. Now that we've established that the Mountaineers have faced top 10 competition 78 times in program history, some folks might be wondering how many times West Virginia has squared off against the AP's number 1 ranked team in the polls. Well, it's happened 9 times, most recently in 2002. Unfortunately, all 9 have seen the good guys come up short. Number 1, Miami in Morgantown, 2002. West Virginia runs for 363, makes it a game, 24-23 after 3 quarters, but Ken Dorsey makes too many plays. 2001, sloppy night in South Florida. Miami all over West Virginia, 45-3, forcing 6 turnovers. 1998, number 1 Ohio State comes to Morgantown. It was never really a game. The Buckeyes proved to be as advertised, go on to win the Sugar Bowl. 1992, Miami leads in South Florida at one point 35-3 and wins going away. 1989, the national championship, the Fiesta Bowl, number 1 Notre Dame, what might have been but for the Major Harris injury. 1986, a star-studded Miami crew. Number 1 Hurricanes come to Morgantown, led by Vinny Testaverde. 58-14, they dressed down the Mountaineers. 1981, believe it or not, it was the only time West Virginia faced a number 1 ranked Penn State team. The Nittany Lions won, going away in Happy Valley, 30-7. 1976, this was the closest game West Virginia has ever played against a number 1 ranked team. Dan Kendra and the 4-5 Mountaineers threw a scare into Pitt, in part because of 5 Panther fumbles. It was 17-10 after 3 quarters, but Tony Dorsett and company proved too much in a 24-16 West Virginia loss. And in 1946, West Virginia faced its first number 1 ranked opponent, the Army Black Knights, a team that featured 2 Heisman Trophy winners, Mr. Inside, Mr. Outside, Doc Blanchard and Glenn Davis. Interesting sidebar with this game. When West Virginia played Army head coach Red Blake actually didn't even coach the game. Instead, he went to Baltimore to scout Notre Dame, who Army was facing the next week in what was being billed as the game of the century. West Virginia sports historian John Antonick tells me that actually wasn't a very uncommon practice for coaches of the day, scouting in lieu of coaching the game against what they viewed as a lesser opponent. That proved to be true on this day as Army beat West Virginia 19-0. So there you have it. Here's hoping you had some fun and maybe even learned a couple things along the way. You're now armed with enough info, we hope, to make you the smartest Mountaineer fan around the water cooler when you show back up for work this week. So when Kevin from accounting says Major Harris beat more ranked teams than any other WVU quarterback, you can say, I love the Mage, but slow your roll, Kev. When Toby from HR claims West Virginia has never been ranked atop a major poll, that's so Toby. You can remind him about those 5 glorious days in November of 2007 and a little thing called the Coaches Poll. I think you get the idea. Now, go spread your knowledge, but before you do us a huge favor and hit the subscribe button. The YouTube analytics tell us that most of our viewers are not subscribed, and you could do us a huge favor by hitting that button and adding another subscription. So please subscribe. And while you're at it, please add a comment below the video, below our videos. The algorithm at YouTube really likes that, and it helps us create more content. Really helps the cause. So we'd appreciate all that. For Wes Euler, the Runaway Beer Truck Owen Schmidt, and our producer Skylar Callahan, I'm Jed Drennan. Remember, the one thing we ask of you is to be an ear and tell an ear about your new favorite WVU football podcast. You've been in the gun.
The fun doesn't have to stop here.
Be sure to hit subscribe and never miss an episode.
Join us again next time.
Until then,
Tell an ear to tell an ear about your new favorite WVU football podcast.
And laugh, and most importantly, be physical.
This mission is over.